right, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mental Health Mondays. I am Mind Runner, also known as AA Ron, and I'm real excited today because my guest is a new friend of mine that I have found in the Twitter Xverse through a number of different Twitter spaces. I highly encourage you guys to check those out, especially the latest with Amber Champagne and Emma Carney. But my guest at this time is also the host of her own series of Twitter spaces, and she is the chief member of the Calmist Society, of which I'm also a part of. And she is the matriarch of Mississippi herself. She is an autism advocate and just a real relaxed Southern charm, make you feel good about yourself person. And I'm talking about Blaze from Blaze Your Thoughts. Follow her on Twitter. And Blaze, thanks for joining me on Mental Health Mondays.
Thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate it.
I'm real excited.
Me
We
too.
actually met on through, I guess, kind of through Amber Champagne's space, but you started hosting your own spaces, and your one of your first spaces kind of became known as like the Calm Society or the Calmist Society. I forget what we ended up landing on, but it was an acronym of the people that were in
Right.
there. And one of the things I wanted to say that I had said then is how you have it's part of, I'm sure it's partly Southern charm, but you have a relaxing personality to you. And I know we're going to get into some stuff where your life can be anything but relaxing at times,
Right.
as we're talking before we started recording. But I think that's important, and I think there is something to that's a skill, that's something that really helps people, puts people in a comfort zone. And I think a lot of times we get a little too amped up, and having that demeanor
Right.
is crucial. But glad that you're here, and I'm
Thank
excited to
you.
talk about all kinds of cool stuff with you.
Me too. I'm so excited.
So we were talking right before we got on, and I want to talk about you're let me try this again. You're an autism advocate, and
Yeah.
particularly for your son who diagnosed with autism. And there's some interesting things about neurodivergence that we've discussed before. I know that you had gone back and watched a few of the earlier Mental Health Mondays, and but in particular, we started talking about one of my favorite things is Minecraft. And
Right.
you were telling me that your son built this elaborate roller coaster in Minecraft and was explaining it to you.
He did. He built there was I want to say there was probably 6 or 8 levels in Minecraft. And he would put and I mean it would go from like one area to another on the other side, and he would have like these the roller coaster would go around and up and down, and then it would come to a certain point, and then he would have a sign that says level 1. And then it would go all the way up a little bit more, and then he would have level 2. And I mean, it was so intricate how he did it. And I honestly, personally, I don't understand how it works. I get agitated when I play it with him, and I'm like, "Jax, I cannot do this. I cannot play this game. I get too annoyed with it. It's too finicky, it's too touchy, and I just don't get it." But I mean, he plays it all the time. He loves
it,
it.
it's a real open sandbox kind of, it's hard to even
Yeah.
call it a game, because the game itself, like, it's really straight, like it's one of those games where if you actually go and solve the game, you're missing 99% of what's in the game. And it's
Right.
much more of a sandbox. In fact, I use, when I teach, I use Minecraft Education Edition, which for anybody homeschooling, you definitely want to look into that, because it's where it's like a teacher version. It's Minecraft. It is Minecraft. It's the actual Minecraft game, but they've added features where you can do a lot of different things. You can create lessons where in the game they explore different things. You can set it up where certain villagers will have
Wow.
dialogue.
See,
We
like, that's
Yeah.
the thing, like, and he's getting into, like, the prompts
Yeah.
and stuff, and I'm like, "What? I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I don't even know where to go." with the prompts. Like, what do you
Uh,
say in the prompts? I don't
mhm.
understand what you're doing here. So, I mean, it's like, I
And
don't know.
he's and just to let everybody know, he's 7, right? Or going on
He is
8.
7. Yeah,
So
he is
here it
7.
is. 7 years old. See, and that's the thing. 7 years old. He's already coding. He's already learning
Right.
the. He's
Right.
already immersing himself, and that's
Right.
tremendous. Minecraft Education. They're not a sponsor, but I highly recommend. And I know there's a lot of parents out there that are Minecraft phobes, and I understand that. And I'm here to tell you, as an adult myself, well, at least physically an adult. I think mentally sometimes I'm 8, but
We
I'm
love
here to
you
tell
either
you,
way.
definitely, it has a tremendous educational value to it.
Yeah, I believe that
There's a
most
lot of
definitely.
spatial intelligence. There's a
Right.
ton of math involved. There's
Right.
we built in my classroom, we built a working aqueduct to simulate what they built in ancient Rome. We built a mock-up of the
So
Great Wall of
cool.
China. We built the pyramids. We and there's a lot, and what's interesting is there's a lot of science involved. Like it teaches students about resources, because you can use wood in the game, but when you chop down a tree, you get a little sapling thing that you can go plant another tree.
Right.
So that teaches them about renewable resources. But then when it comes to like coal, once you've mined coal, you have to go find more coal to mine. You can't plant coal to create
Right.
more coal. So they get that understanding of, yeah, I can just keep planting trees and have renewable resources. But if I mine all the coal in my mine, then I got to go find another mine somewhere else, and at the risk of destroying my house.
Right.
So it's
I
really.
know, like, I was trying to he was in some type of world that we had got for him, and one of the goal, I guess you had to find, like, some emeralds or something,
Mhm.
and so I had to Google it, and I'm like, okay, so I got like this whiteboard and I was trying to write down all the directions he would need to do in order to find the emeralds. I'm sure he already knows how to do it, but I just wanted to be sure that way we
Mhm.
didn't have like a meltdown in the process of trying to find those emeralds. And I'm like, how do you find the emeralds? And then, I mean, he ended up not even playing it, but he just went back to his own world where he was creating things. But I mean, it's so the game itself has so many different things, and it's a very intricate game, and I don't understand it, but I'm so glad that he does.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times that's what it has to be, because there's things that I don't understand, and but if it's really helping kids get engaged,
Right.
knock yourself out, you know?
Right, and that's kind of where we're advancing anyways. So, I mean, it's good for them to learn how to do it now because, I mean, it's only gonna help them in the future anyways, whether it, be in gaming or in, technology. I mean,
Mhm.
we're advancing so quickly, so I think games like that are very beneficial, to
Do you
any kid,
fear
really.
do you fear that we're presenting kids with too much technology, or is it more to do with that we to prepare them for the future, they need to be immersed in it more?
Yeah, I'm I'm definitely pro technology. I'm pro
Mhm.
AI, all that, in that genre because I feel like don't keep them if we don't introduce them and we don't allow them to take part in it, then
Mhm.
they'll be left behind.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those parents, I definitely want to take part in that. And, we're kind of a tech family. We like technology. We don't mind for our kids to be on technology. Sometimes we do technology altogether. It just, and that's a subject that a lot of parents are very, 50-50 on because, of the time spent on technology, which we do take time outdoors
Mhm.
sometimes, but, for the most part, we like technology. There's a lot of beneficial things on technology. My son that has autism, he learns a lot on technology, like on YouTube. There's a channel called Math Antics. And
Yes,
yes,
Rob.
my son
I love
loves
Rob
that
from Math
channel.
Antics. Oh, I love
Yes,
Rob.
he
Yes.
loves that show. That's where he learned how to do
I,
like 3-digit multiplication.
I
Like,
use Rob Math Antics in my teaching.
yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
he loves those kind of videos. So for people, I don't see how anybody could not, be pro tech, in that nature, because there's so many educational values
Mhm.
that come along with it,
Do you homeschool your
Mm-mm.
son? He,
No, because during the pandemic, I did question whether or not I would homeschool, but at this point for him, I don't think it would be too beneficial. I think it would cause a lot of regression because the main thing is,
Mhm.
when someone that has a disorder like that, you want them to be in the most beneficial and normal setting possible. You want them to have that social interaction. You want them to learn how to communicate with society, so um no, I definitely have considered it, you know, because of, what we had been through, and also because of bullying and things like that,
Mhm.
or the fear of it, I've definitely considered, but you can't, it's not good to do that with someone who's for someone that's on the spectrum. It's just not, um, I don't, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's very beneficial for them.
Do you feel like it do you feel like some parents opt into over sheltering their children because they're with their autism because they're afraid of bullying, or do you feel like that social, I hate to say it, but do you feel like sometimes that social interaction, that negative social interaction is ultimately good because it teaches them to adapt and to deal with it?
Um, yes, I do. And this is kind of what we're dealing with my son. Like, we're having some issues with him kind of making friends, but on the other side, we have issues with him, screaming at people or yelling at people because he
Mhm,
doesn't know how to express his emotions properly, or really even, I guess, recognize them in a
mhm.
way. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's really important that they have the social interactions,
Yeah.
because, it does teach them, especially with like even you know, the negative experiences that they have, it teaches them to be resilient. It teaches them, how to communicate even when they're having a negative experience, so
Mhm.
it's definitely it's a struggle trying to teach them in a sense, but I feel like the older that he gets, the better it'll become.
Have you had that conversation with him, and maybe he's too young, but about what autism is,
Oh yeah.
and so he's well
Mhm.
aware?
He
Okay.
is very aware.
Has that helped his confidence? Has that helped his confidence a little bit, or is it more, does he feel like he understands a little bit of how his social interactions are different than others?
Not yet. I think as far as his intellect, yeah, I think he understands that he might be like, with math, how
Mhm,
he's kind of advanced intellectually. Um, I think he understands that sometimes with autism, that they can be, extremely good at math, or
mhm,
extremely good at art, or extremely good at science, so I think he kind of understands that aspect, but socially, not so much. Like, we constantly have to um, converse with him and bring awareness to the fact that, in order to, you know, progress socially and to make friends, you have to change some of the behavior, that you're expressing, in front of others. So it is a constant conversation, but yeah, he is very well aware that he has autism. I'm very honest and open with him when it comes to that. And I definitely remind him that even though he may be on the spectrum, that doesn't make him any less or any different. He might be a
Hmm.
little different than other children, but he's still, a wonderful and smart, beautiful child. So I
Yes, he is. And if
definitely,
he's a Minecraft fan, he's good in my
yeah,
book. I gotta
he's
tell you.
he's a Minecraft fan for sure.
What are some misconceptions that you've either had or seen others have about children with autism that you've learned are that people have or are different than what maybe people perceive?
Um, I guess the main misconception is that they don't really have emotions.
Hmm.
Um, they have they struggle with expressing and recognizing certain emotions. Um, they communicate their expressions through like facial, or they communicate their emotions through like facial expressions um, or body language, like eye contact or fidgeting or flapping. But um, it does make it kind of difficulty. It makes it difficult when they struggle with eye contact and that
Hmm.
same nature, and struggle or have a type of resistance to touch. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions is emotions, because they definitely do feel things.
Hmm.
They feel every emotion that we feel, just sometimes at a heightened um, level, where we're able to kind of level ourselves out. They struggle with that. And that's one of the biggest, you know, um, that's one of the biggest things we're trying to teach my son right now, is how to recognize and accept, assess his emotions, and um, go from there. So, but that's
Absolutely.
probably one of the biggest, misconceptions. And I guess like the next one is, that they may not have like a bright future, and that's not the truth. With the proper therapy and um, support, they can very well manage to have a future, and
Oh, absolutely.
grow and engage in, meaningful relationships and have jobs. I mean, you see several others that are doing that right now in their adult life. So
Hmm. A buddy of mine just, in fact, he just, they're not engaged, but he's thinking about it. He's on the spectrum. He's autistic, and he just like took his girlfriend to Busch Gardens, and
I love
they
that.
look so like I hadn't I'd hardly ever see this guy smile. Like even in pictures where you're
Right.
supposed to smile, it's like this. But he
Mhm.
like I didn't know he had teeth, and there he is, showing up in pictures with her. So I'm happy for them, and they both hit it off. But I taught gifted cluster for several years, and I noticed that a lot of my really high gifted students. Now, again, we could discuss the definition of gifted, which I think should be a lot broader than its
Right.
definition currently. But I've noticed a lot of my students that were like very very gifted in like math, they may also struggle with social skills, and I have always thought that was because when you're growing up and you see the world a little differently, you react to stimuli differently than others, and
Very
therefore your growth is different. So it's not necessarily, and so I like when I hear someone say like you're diagnosed or you have a symptom of autism. Like I think it's more like neurodivergence. Like it's you
yeah,
think differently
most
because you
definitely.
like for me, I my only thing was I never crawled when I was a baby. I went right from like rolling around on the ground. Then I just stood up one day. It was almost like stood up. All right,
Alright,
let
I'm
me
at
go
it.
outside, Dad. Like, what? You were in diapers. Now you're walking out there. But it was, but it's like I feel like Yeah, I think sometimes we had I had an earlier episode. I recommend everybody check out my chat with Jeanette Garcia. She's actually on my educator's channel, but we were talking about her daughter, and her daughter was in my class, and she didn't know she had autism until mid year with me, and in fourth grade. And her mom finally sat her down and explained to her. And it was like a light bulb went off. Like, oh,
Right.
that's why she's been struggling with friends. And now she's got a boyfriend, and there's all that,
Right.
Yeah. And her mom's like, great. Now she's got a boyfriend. Now I got to deal with that. It's like,
Right.
way to go. But
Right.
I feel, I think sometimes we forget, autism can be, and I think sometimes there's some things that are diagnosed as autism that really are just that kid's just energetic. But true
Right.
autism is, I think we forget they're kids,
Right.
and they have those feelings, and they have those things. And I think the more and more we understand autism,
Right.
um, better it
Right.
is.
I mean, autism, it affects your communication and social
Mm-hmm.
interactions and your behaviors. So that's the main thing that they deal with, on a daily basis is their communication. For some reason, that part of the brain is just not, those things are not firing up.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's mainly, what the spectrum being on the spectrum is about is, your ability or your difficulty communicating and interacting with people, I guess along the lines of what society tells you how to
Yeah.
react and interact to. It's just there's such a it's a broad it's a there's so many things that go into it. It's just there's so much that goes into being on the spectrum and it varies for everybody. So
How's behavior management in your house with
well,
tempered with that?
right now we have been having a little bit of a little bit of some difficulties because we got in a car accident in March, and
Oh.
that caused my son to regress in a lot of areas behaviorally. And so we're having to do like trauma therapy, and he's having
Mhm,
to do therapy at school. So in that nature, it's been quite quite the struggle,
mhm.
and kind of doesn't really know the trauma's coming through his behavior, but it's also coming through his dreams, because he's for some reason suppressing it, and these are just the ways it's coming out.
Mhm.
So um he has two other siblings. He has a teenage sister, and his brother is a year older, and they don't really quite understand the level that he's at, I guess you
Mhm.
could say. So it's a constant conversation, constantly reminding them, okay, well, this is why he's acting this way, this is how you should act towards him. It's hard with other kids, it's hard with
Yeah.
siblings because it does take a lot more energy to care for a child with special needs. And you know situations come up where other children feel like the child with special needs is getting more attention, and
Mhm.
it's not that he's getting more attention, he just requires more care,
Yeah.
and assistance, and so it's a revolving conversation here, and we literally just take it one day at a time, literally. So
That's good
I mean,
advice, though, to one day at a time, because I think a lot of times, people feel
yeah,
overwhelmed at a situation, but
right,
a lot of times you have to deal with what's in front of you and not worry about
yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah, it's literally 1 minute at a time, one day at
Mhm.
a time, because, I mean, here you don't know, you can go from 0 to 100 within 1 minute, it just depends
Yeah.
on how they're feeling that day, what happened that day. He's having trouble making friends at school, and so with, the trauma therapy that we're doing and the medication they've put him on. It's just been it's with autism, a lot of times they obsessed over certain areas
Hmm.
in their lives, and or objects. They're very routine, they're very repetitive, so every day for like the past 2 weeks, he's come home and he said, I didn't make a friend today. And he has friends, but I think, he struggles, socially and interacting and reacting. And so I think a lot of times certain kids don't want to play with him. And so, which I did go to the school and talk to the principal, and, we discussed, the importance, you know, how important it is to have the discussion with even younger children, about autism. I think it's really important that, they teach them from the very beginning. And, most people, a lot of the educational systems don't,
Hmm.
and they need to, it's becoming more and more prevalent in society today. 20 years ago, maybe not, but now it's more prevalent and it's very progressive. So it needs to be taught across the board. That goes for students, that goes for teachers, starting at pre-K all the way up.
Yeah.
Start teaching it, make people aware, of the different behaviors and responses. Even for children, they may not understand now, but just, plant that seed, so it can, so eventually they will understand and they'll be able to catch on to someone who, may not, show a lot of those signs, but they'll be able to pick up on just the tiniest little signs.
Yeah. Plus, I think a lot of it has to do with the community that you build in your classroom, in your school, as well. I mean, we could do a whole separate podcast on my gripes with the education system as a whole.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there are good educators out there. There's a
Right.
lot that we can't do, and there's a lot that we get our hands tied behind our back. A lot of
Yeah.
times we go rogue with that.
Right.
But like, I think if you and I think in society as well, if we go to more, there's that balance between, there are consequences for your actions, and so it's not like, oh well, you have
Right.
autism, so you get treated differently or you get a different outcome, but
Right.
it's the understanding behind it and how to help manage that is, I think, what's
Right.
important. It's kind of like
Right.
it's one of the things I think is important in a classroom is not is to normalize the autism a little bit from the standpoint of that we're all different. I
Right.
mean, granted, and we all have different things, that different challenges as well as different superpowers. I used to use with
Right.
the kids, and I think that that makes a little more sense to the kids where they don't feel, well, Timmy's different. Timmy's got autism, so he's, don't touch him or you'll catch it.
Right.
That kind of thing. It's more like,
Right.
okay, well, this makes Timmy feel upset, so I'm going to be cool with that. I got to make sure I'm understand it. I had a student a couple of years ago that he didn't understand why did nobody liked him, but he would get mad when somebody would somebody like punched him, and he was mad
Yeah.
and all upset. And then I as I talked to him, it turns out he threw a football at the kid's face because he was mad, but he didn't tell me that part. But what it was he felt justified in throwing the football at his face because he
Right.
was like, well, yeah, because he called me a name. I was fine. There was that disconnect. And so,
Right.
but
Right.
having those conversations, I think, is so helpful. And and just in listening to you, you're on top of that. It's so important. Yeah, I feel so
Right.
bad when parents and teachers just kind of put somebody in a box without having the conversations like you're having with
Right. And
your
see,
son.
that's the good thing. Like the school that he's at right now, they
Mhm.
really do support, they support him, and they definitely do whatever they can to help him. And,
Does he have an IEP?
yeah, oh
Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
Like he struggles with transitioning, and so sometimes, the special ed teacher may have to come in there and help him with transitioning into a different subject or a different activity
Hmm.
or a different, anything that is any routine that changes is like a flag for him. He doesn't like it. It makes him nervous. He gets really agitated, so they really do assist him as much as they can, in that aspect. So, I mean, I am very, very appreciative of the school that he attends now because they do help him out a lot. And they, if any problems ever, come to the forefront, they always let me know and, keep me updated on what's
Hmm.
going on. So I do appreciate, what they do.
Do you feel like the more we as human beings learn more about autism, do you feel like things will get better? Or do you feel like there's certain things we need to make sure we avoid? Yeah.
Um,
No easy questions
Say that
here.
again. Let
Well,
me.
what I mean is this, like, I'll phrase it a different way. Do you feel like the more we learn about autism, the better, and I guess that's the subjective word. Do you think it would be more like the more we learn about autism, the less issues we're going to have, or do you think that we as a society can embrace it, and to the point, and where is that line between understanding autism but also there are certain things in society we have to make sure we're aware of, like, you can't run a red light and then get pulled over and say, well, I have autism, so you know don't write the ticket. I mean, that's the extreme.
Yeah,
What
I
I'm also saying, though, is that there needs to be an understanding, and where we're not like where somebody with autism is still treated like a human being. Does that make sense?
yeah, I feel like I am hopeful that the more we learn, the more it will be accepted and the more we'll be able to kind of tell kind of right off the bat, okay, this
Hmm.
person may or may not be, they may be a little different from me,
Yeah.
So I think, I'm hopeful that, the more we learn, the better we're going to be able to respond and interact with them. I don't want to alienate, people on the spectrum because that's not the goal. The goal is to include them
Yeah.
and to bring awareness to, you know, their abilities, their great abilities,
Yeah.
and that's the entire point,
I saw your
society
video
is
of him teaching you multiplication.
I know it's incredible some of the stuff that he picks up, like his vocabulary is just sometimes he'll say stuff and I'm like, where did you hear that word? And it's like a word that's, it's like I mean, he really is like they're incredibly intelligent,
Mom, the
and
hypotenuse is inconceivable. I mean,
right,
forsooth. You're like,
right. Like I
okay.
mean, he's just, he just absolute he amazes me sometimes.
Mhm.
It's just incredible to watch, honestly. Like there are struggles, but there's so much more good than bad,
Mhm.
and I really have enjoyed being on this journey with him, and I am very, very blessed that you know God allowed me to be his parent,
Mhm.
that he trusted me to have this child that is incredibly brilliant in a lot of areas. So I mean, I feel like society is starting to come around to the concept of autism, and I'm hopeful that it's only going to get better. So
He's very blessed to have you. I mean, kind of
thank
circling back
you.
to my original description of you, where you have that calm demeanor, and I think that helps. It's like you remind me of one of my friends growing up. His mom had this very kind of calm Southern charm, and there's one
Hmm.
time he mouthed off to her, and she sent him to his room, And as he's going up the stairs, he goes, "I hate you, mommy." And she just goes, "Well, go hate me up in your room." And it was,
Right.
and,
Right.
and he goes, "Ah."
You
That,
can
but
do
it was
what
just
you
like
want.
not bothered, not bothered at all. Just go,
I mean,
um,
I have my times of,
yeah,
where, I'm human and I get agitated and annoyed just like anybody else is. But for the most part, I really try and be as understanding and compassionate as possible. And
well,
that's with
shoot,
anybody,
you got a teenager too. I mean, come on, mom, don't be sus. No
I'm
cap,
right. And bruh, like she calls
bruh.
me bruh every other word. And she
Yeah,
comes in the house, she'll go, "Saw dude." And I'm like, "What?" And she'll go,
bruh.
"Saw dude." And I was like, "What?" She'll go, "It means what's up, dude." And I'm like, "That is not what you just said." She'll go, "Saw dude." And I'm like, "Golly."
Tell her she's
Or
being sussy baka next time she
Sussy
does
Baka, I'll tell her
sussy
that.
baka.
I will
Just
tell her that.
and watch the reaction on her face.
Right, right. I mean,
Say,
they're teenagers are hard. And on top of that, a female?
oh,
My God, like, I'm telling you, it's stressful. Struggle is
teenage, yeah.
real,
Forget autism. Let's talk about raising a teenager, bruh.
bruh.
Yeah, I have a book I want to recommend to you and anybody about autism. I read this. We actually, as a school, read this 2 years ago, and it's really cool. I don't know if you've heard of A Boy Named Bat or A Boy Called Bat. Yeah, it's A Boy Called Bat. And it's actually a series, but the first book. This is just a what to show it. It's about a boy called Bat. It's a book written in the perspective of a young boy with autism, but it's written from
Nice.
his perspective. And what's there's a lot of like you have to, like it's one of those books where like if you just read it on the surface, like there's a lot of things you have to kind of infer. Like,
Right,
he makes a comment about this other girl's lunch, and she starts crying, and he doesn't understand why she's upset. And then his friend goes, "Bruh," like that, like,
right,
"Dude, why'd you say that?" And it's really what I like about it is it kind of makes you think about from a child with autism's perspective and
right,
why they miss some of those social cues
right.
and what they do think about, and it's
Yeah.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah, because I buy books for them all the time. And especially like there was a it was like a bundle that I had seen on a different platform, and it was like some of the books was called I Am Kind, I or Zen Pig, different
Mhm.
things like that, to teach them, to teach them how to respond to different situations and different people. So, I mean, I'm definitely into educating my children on,
Mhm.
you know, the subject of autism and also how to respond to, you know, different situations in society. So, I'm
Yep.
very,
And for every one of those books, get them a Dog Man or Captain Underpants or yeah, those are the books. It's like it's so funny because like I would as a teacher they would have all these recommended books like this one, the Caldecott Newberry, great for school award, and you read it and it's like boring. But the Radioactive Underpants, that book, the kids are like, "Oh, I want that book. Oh,
right.
is it
I
got
know there was
Pokemon
one.
in it?"
Right, there was a book in there that was called I Can Scream Louder, and he loved that book, and I was like, "Of course you would love that book. Of course
When
you would."
did he read the title and go, "Challenge accepted"?
Right? No, probably what he said inside his head, like, "Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, bring it.
Yeah,
Now,
definitely."
what does that kind of say? I want to spread out what we just said about specifics with autism and teenagers. Let's spread it out a little bit too and talk about society in general and how helpful spaces like yours are with society, because I think and especially with social media, we tend to dwell on the negative instead of the positive, and sometimes we just need a chill.
Yeah, okay, so there was a point in my life that, especially after the pandemic, that I pretty much cut myself off from society. I didn't, um, and lost myself in the process. I've
I was
been
gonna
kind
say,
of,
you're saying that's like it's a bad thing.
yeah,
I mean,
like, right? I mean, I do personally, I do love,
Mhm,
my, I do love to be by myself, don't mistake that. But
mhm.
I think after my son was diagnosed, I submerged myself so far into it that I started losing, I started losing myself.
Yeah.
And it's just been ongoing. It's just been like a vicious cycle, and has been happening for like probably the past 5 years. And so after the pandemic, I kind of just cut myself out, and my mental health kind of declined. I ended up having surgery, and after I had surgery, it changed who I was as a woman. It changed my body, my the way my mind works. It changed everything. And so um, I got back on X, and after Elon took over, and started interacting with people. And I was kind of really still really shy at the same time, but still wanted to kind of put myself out there, and
Mhm.
um, you know, have my own opinion. And I have to say, like, the courage that I have now compared to before I started is absolutely mind blowing. Like, the people that I have talked to, like our community, my people, like, I feel like I have found my people,
Yeah,
and it
like
has
that
just,
blind melon video where the bee finds her other, yeah, she spends the whole thing time in the bee costume dancing, and at the end she finds all the bees and
right.
other
Like,
yeah.
that's how I feel. Like, I feel like I have finally found people that understand me, that can keep me encouraged, that inspire me on a daily basis. It's really incredible,
Mhm,
the transformation that has happened so far. And I feel like I could probably speak for others as well,
mhm.
in our, little community that we have going. Like, we really just have, like, when the day is done, all the kids are in bed, you know, I've spent time with my husband. I love nothing more than to get on X, come into spaces, and chat with my people. Like,
Mhm.
they just, it's really just, it's a beautiful, beautiful experience that I've had so far. And I can't wait to see where it goes. Truly, I
Do you
can't.
do you feel like you get some more of yourself back with that time on X?
I do. Yeah, I definitely. And I've lost a lot of sleep in the process.
But worth
But
it?
on the flip side, I
Yeah.
do. I feel like I'm slowly starting to have a little bit more confidence
Mhm.
in myself,
That's awesome.
more bravery. For a long time, I feel like I had lost my voice, that it had been suppressed for too long, and
Mhm.
I was afraid to express my opinion. But since I've been doing spaces, I just feel way more comfortable doing that, expressing my opinion, having fun, not worrying about what anybody else thinks, because their opinions are irrelevant. It's just, it has changed a lot of things, within me. And it's it's crazy to say that other people have helped me find myself, but they have, because they keep me inspired, and they constantly encourage me, and they also advise me. Constructive criticism is probably the best thing for any individual,
Yeah.
and that's kind of where we are in our, little group that we have
Mhm.
going. We share opinions that may be different, but respect each other on the level that it should be. And I think it's important to have that. I think it's important to have a supportive community around you,
Mhm.
and I have really, really enjoyed it, and I am so thankful for it.
I'm thankful to have met you, and
Yeah.
I think I speak for a lot of us. I feel like Twitter X and a lot of these social media spaces, we tend to hear about the negativity, but my grandfather used to say the emptiest cans make the most noise, and it's usually it's the one that's we hear the like you could like I'll post something and I might get 100 responses, 99 of them are compliments, and then there's that one troll, and then I'm dwelling on that one troll. I'm like, why did he
Right.
say that? And I think that's part of it, but I think what I really like what you said is the company you keep. When you have the group, if you find a group of people that are supportive and have that mentality, it's such a gift to
It
have that,
is.
and it's in constructive criticism because it's not just like toxic positivity. We're like, how are you today, Blaze? You are great and
Right.
amazing the way you are.
Right.
It's
Right.
constructive, and it's
Right.
in a real mentality.
Right. Like,
How
and
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say how important, or how do you feel like that social media isn't is it what you make it to be, or is this kind of how we're evolving with social media?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's up to you whether you want to evolve. I think it's smart to evolve
Hmm.
because we're evolving. I'm sorry, did I lose you?
We got you back.
Sorry,
You're back.
I got a call.
Okay.
We're evolving at a very quick pace, so it is definitely what you make it, but I
Mhm.
also think it's going to contribute to, especially X. I think it's really going to contribute to the evolution of humanity. I mean, I really do. Like, I have a lot of hope for it, and I believe in it, and I definitely think we're on the brink of something big, so I definitely wanted to be a part of that, and I wanted to, um, have a voice with it, and I mean, it's so far, it's really been spectacular to see what's been going on.
Do you feel like we're moving past cancel culture a little bit?
No, I don't. Not right now.
Mhm.
Just because you see so many. I mean, you still see it so prevalent in a lot of areas, uh, especially, when the media attacks certain individuals,
Mhm.
we can go way down the rabbit hole in that one big time.
Yeah.
I just, as of right now, I don't see that, um, but I'm hopeful that it will be better in the future. But right now, no, I don't.
I feel like we need to get to a point where, like you said, where in society we can disagree civilly. Like, I
Right,
mean, I always use the pineapple on pizza as a dumb example, but it's a great example of there are people that get into heated debates, not
I mean,
not just me and
heated
Norwood jerking
debates.
around, but like true debates. And I think that I always go back to Daryl Davis. He's the black or jazz and blues musician that he used to tour with, used to play with James Brown. He used to play with James Brown and a number of other bands. And his and there was one moment where he was carpooling with a white musician who revealed to him on the journey that he's a member of the Ku Klux Klan. And he started, and instead of like it being like, back and forth yelling at each other and calling each other names, Daryl Davis started asking him questions and just like, why do you believe what you believe and what do you believe,
Right.
and forcing the guy to really speak on his beliefs. And then he would share his views, and they would just, and it was a like, even though the clan member guy was kind of being condescending, it was still a dialogue. And by the end of that trip, the Ku Klux Klan member renounced it. Ku Klux Klan turned in his robe and hood to Daryl Davis, and
Right.
since then he has collected over 200 robes and hoods just by conversation, just by talking.
Right.
And
That's the main that's the main point of the
mhm,
entire matter at hand is dialogue and conversation, asking questions. Why do they feel that way? Why do you think that way? You know,
mhm,
and depending on how much of the conversation and dialogue there is, there's so many things that can happen within that span of time, of conversing with each other.
mhm.
I know some of my opinions have changed just talking to someone else, that we disagreed on a certain situation. And, you know, sometimes it doesn't make you weak to admit that you were wrong.
Yes.
It doesn't make you weak to apologize. It doesn't make you weak. It, the point, the whole point of life is to learn and to evolve. That's the point of life. And the more we can kind of talk about it, question one another, understand one another, I feel like the better it will be. But it all starts with conversation. That's we have to start. We really need to start communicating better
A
as
lot better.
society. Like, I feel like we're stuck in our ways. We have no we don't want to what's the word I'm looking for? We have no desire to change our opinion because we
Yeah.
feel like we're always right. And
Yeah,
it's so unfair. Like, that's not always the case. Who's even to decide what is right these days,
exactly.
You know, so I mean, yeah.
Do you feel like people are too emotionally invested in their beliefs so that changing their opinion changes who they are a little bit?
Say that again.
Well, like for example, I find some people they get like their identity is their like their beliefs become their identity, and so to change like their belief changes who they are. And it could be something as simple as I don't like sushi, but then they try sushi and it's delicious, but they still got to say they don't like sushi because they've part of who they are is this. Hey, I don't like sushi. Now, obviously, I'm using that as an analogy to other more political and social and religious stuff, but like, how do you feel like part of the problem is people don't want to change some of their core beliefs because it's because that's part of who they are as an that's their identity, and it's so hard to change that because, and I'm saying they should
I
change it.
think
Yeah,
people have a problem detaching themselves.
there it is.
You
Yeah.
Yeah, because I struggled with that, years ago when, you know, um, religion was a big part of my life. And um, one of my biggest things was detaching myself mentally, from
Mhm.
those core beliefs, and understanding that that wasn't who made me that didn't define me as a person.
Yeah.
Um, what defines me as a person is how I treat other people, how I respond and
Mhm.
react and interact with other people. It doesn't matter what I believe in. It matters if I love myself.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I think a lot of people do struggle with detaching themselves from their beliefs. And I feel like if people would just be open minded a bit and understand that things have changed and things aren't always what they seem to be, that
Mhm.
they'll find a lot of truth in that. But they have to start with accepting that they may be wrong in that area. And I think that's where one of the biggest transitions for me in mental health was detaching from core beliefs, made from religion,
Mhm.
or conditioned me to believe that you know I shouldn't have an opinion, or I should have to have long hair, or I wasn't able to wear makeup. Those things are not important. And,
Yeah.
you know, to detach yourself from that and to break down those barriers is a struggle within itself. Like it's a very difficult process, um, shedding those, you know, beliefs and things that you were kind of conditioned to believe about yourself, and the limits and rules. So, I mean, like I say this about a lot of things, but I am hopeful that as society, we're eventually we're just going to have to we're going to have a lot more of an open mind than we used to have, because we're not really going to have a choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
progressing so fast,
We
and
gotta adapt. Yeah.
advancing, at such um a quick rate that, that if we don't get with, if we don't get with I don't know. I'm really weird when it comes to that. Like, I feel like, we definitely should have an open mind when it comes to all areas
Yeah.
of beliefs.
I think so too. And do you see a commonality? Like I've seen that, or I felt like throughout history, all the different religions, where they become a problem is the human involvement. Like there's a lot of the rules that are really made up by the human part, but the core of most religions, their core beliefs are love one another, or there's a, or to a point, what I mean,
Right.
or there's a central message to a lot of religions of, you know
Right.
don't be a
There's
yeah.
a lot of good in religions, but there's also a lot of, I wouldn't I mean, there of course, there's with good, there comes the bad.
Mhm.
I just think there are a lot of things that are completely and utterly unnecessary. Life is hard enough. Don't add on anything else that's going to make it more difficult,
Mhm.
as far as rules and requirements. Like, the main goal is to, like you said, love one another, and that's what you should thrive off of. That's what you should practice every single day. Stop casting the judgment and just accept people for who they are and keep an open mind.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things we don't know because, we're so far into history that, no one really knows what really has happened. No
Mhm.
one really knows what's really real. So you have to keep an open mind. You
Yeah, who
really do.
knows what's going to be written about us.
Right. I mean, literally, we're going to be in the history books,
Yeah.
but they're also probably going to, you know, deal with the fact that, well, how do we know if that's real?
Yeah.
I mean,
There's there's
it's
gonna
just
be some kid in some class going, "Oh, do you know that those idiots, they had to use cell phones? They had
right.
smartphones, they were dumb phones.
The
They
flip
didn't."
phones, like, when I talk to my daughter about flip phone, she's like, "What?" Like, "What?" And I'm like, "What?" You
Oh,
know?
so they
And
don't
then
believe, yeah.
no, I found a phone that had, the cord attached to it in one of my closets not too long ago, and Jack, my son, was like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "What? What is this?" And I was like, "It's a phone."
Oh, you
That's
wanna
what it
really blow her
is.
mind? Get her a rotary phone and see if she can use the rotary phone. My mentor teacher, Phyllis McCann, was telling us the story where her son came to visit, and she had a rotary phone, and he went to make a phone call, and he came back up. He's like, "How do I use this phone?" He's trying to press the numbers, and she's like, she finally showed him. But it's so funny how that was, not long ago,
I
that
know.
that was how it is. Do you feel like as humans we really kind of want the same things? We just have different perspectives, and that we waste so much time arguing about those things and not on what we really want.
Yeah, most definitely. I think we're all here for some type of common good,
Mhm.
and and I think some people believe certain ways because they were taught to believe or conditioned to believe that way. But I feel like we're all here for a common purpose, and that's to be kind to one another and evolve with one another,
Mhm.
in the process, So I always choose to have hope, and I always choose to believe that most people are good. So yeah, I do believe, you know, we're all really just trying to find the common good in one another, you know, even if there is different perspectives.
Yeah, you got to
That's where
try.
dialogue comes in and
Yes, dialogue.
understanding one another.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I don't know if you agree that because to avoid echo chambers, because you're not going to grow in an echo chamber.
Right.
My
No.
father, bless his heart, I love my father to death. Very smart man, very intelligent. Yes, he's very Scottish. He doesn't have the Scottish accent, but a lot of our the idiosyncrasies that are common with this with Scottish people, like the very
Right.
frugal with the money, that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Right.
But he'll go off on politics, and he's been just so immersed in a lot of political stuff. And again, he's a smart man, but he pigeonholes himself to the point where I had to tell him to stop. My cousin would post a happy it was a birth announcement, or it was the gender reveal for one of her friends, and he goes in and makes some political comment about, in Biden's economy, you're gonna have to tell the pronouns and and I'm like, Dad, just be happy.
Right.
Leave that. But then I have friends like on the like I guess the other side of the spectrum from his side. He doesn't see it as a side though. He sees it as true. And then I have friends that are like, if you think this way, then you are not only a Trump supporter, but you're also a Nazi. You also eat puppies, and
Right.
and it's that, and it's like I want to just scream. I'm like, all of
But
y'all,
that's the
just
thing, like society has a hard time understanding that we are allowed to have our own opinions,
yeah,
and like your dad is allowed to have your own opinions. And in fact, I mean, science tells you certain opinions, certain backs certain opinions,
yeah,
and implications, so I think that's where we really just get into the problem is people just think that you're not allowed to have an opinion, and they immediately go to the completely end of the spectrum, and like you said, oh, you're a Trump supporter, you're a Nazi, and it's not even like that. Like, we're allowed to have different perspectives. That doesn't mean we don't love the people that are opposite of what we believe,
yeah.
or it just means we're different, and that's okay. I
Absolutely
don't
makes
know, it's
makes
crazy.
for fun Thanksgiving discussions, though.
Right, no
I like to
doubt.
when I want to get seconds on the mashed potatoes, I'll just say, so would you hear about DeSantis, what he said the other day? And then I'll while they're yelling, I'll go seconds.
Mhm. Most
but
definitely. Gotta
but
have the
yeah.
seconds in the mashed potatoes. Most
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, but I think it's all about dialogue. I think we really need to, and
Yeah.
nothing makes me sad more than I see this a lot where, like recently, the Russell Brand stuff. This guy, a friend of mine who I respect, he tweeted out. He says, Russell Brand is a horrible person and he's a scumbag. And if you disagree with that, you might as well block me and unfollow me now because you're never going to change my mind. And I've seen people say that about every little issue from every perspective, every political ideal. And that type of posting, it it makes me sad because you're flat out saying, I refuse to hear anybody else's side.
Yeah,
That
that
I refuse and nothing is without nuance. I mean, there's
right,
multiple sides, but to complete, and I'm not saying you're entitled to have your opinion,
right.
but when you go and do something like that, you're alienating yourself from people that otherwise, like you could, like I might agree with 99% of the things you do, but if you're going to draw a line on that 1%,
Right.
I think that's a little bit silly.
I mean, I think that's the problem that we're really having, and we're seeing it reoccur over and over and over again. If someone has this opinion that is different from you, then you immediately attack them and you try to destabilize their entire life,
Mhm.
and it's it's incredibly disturbing, you know, with how much power that they have in doing that,
Yeah.
deplatforming someone, and it was only just allegations that were made, nothing has been set in stone, the thing with the Russell Brand is he spoke up about the elites, and he spoke out against different companies, and they did not like that,
Mm-mm.
and that's the problem that we're having today. If someone doesn't agree with you, you attack them, and that is wrong. On every level, it's wrong. What happened to innocent until proven guilty? No one is doing their homework now. It's immediately guilty.
Yeah.
They don't, like you said, they don't try and figure out their side of the story. They immediately jump to conclusions. And that is so unfair because that's someone's life,
Mhm.
and I like Russell Brand. I think he's awesome. I think what he's doing, is courageous and brave.
He's a
He's
great example of what you're talking about evolution too, because
absolutely
and he's owned his behavior. He's been
right. He
explicit
has
about
been
it.
upfront and
Yeah.
completely honest with everything he used to be. And that's where it really just discourages me for someone that is so open and honest about, everything that he's done and all the struggles that has happened along the way. And it really just boggles my mind. It really does. And it's really just, it's absolutely absurd and disheartening.
I think I definitely see a coordinated effort. I saw, there were a lot
Oh,
of, I call them
definitely.
sock puppets. These accounts that have maybe 30 followers, and they're just they rarely post. Occasionally they'll go and post something. And somebody made the argument. It was a TikTok where the lady said that the only reason he started his Russell Brand free thinking podcast is so that he could create a cult following to defend himself from these allegations. And I'm just like, what?
So you're
Like,
saying you have a problem with evolving your mental health is what they're
yeah,
saying,
it's
because
just
that's
it's
mainly what he is, that's his goal is
and trying to
to
help others do that too.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I just it's so
Well,
backwards.
I feel like this is actually backfiring. It's having a Streisand effect
Yeah,
because I
because
think
people are starting to wake up and realize,
people are like, what are they hiding? What
they
did
did
he
it to
say?
Andrew
Yeah.
Tate.
Mhm.
They did the exact, and I definitely am not one of his fans, but you just knew they set him up.
Mhm.
And I mean, even what he went through, that's so unfair,
Well, just talk to Julian Assange. I mean, if you really want to, like where he let's what's his situation? What's going on with him? Why are we keeping this guy in prison for being a journalist, essentially?
Right.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit hypocritical to say that you're for women's abuse and that kind of stuff, but then you're also not going to investigate further into the Epstein list. You're
Right.
gonna there's
Yeah.
you're very or invest or believe every woman, but not Tara Reid or not Paula Jones or what have you. It's definitely weaponized, and I feel like do you feel like kind of getting back to the technology thing too, though? We're kind of like independent media is kind of growing faster than mainstream
Thankfully.
media can put its pants on. It's
Thankfully.
yeah.
Especially X, like thankfully it is because we have been lied to for so long. Like,
Mhm.
there's no telling how much we don't know. I mean, there is tons that we don't know. I mean, and thank God that there's places like X that really try
Mhm.
to, get the truth out as quick as possible so that we know really what's going on. But we're
Yeah.
really catching on. Like we really are. I've noticed that we're starting to um evolve in that area, where our intuition's like, something's not right there.
Yeah.
We kind of see we know what's going on. We know what you're doing, so I feel like eventually, hopefully that will come to a halt. I doubt it because everything is just so corrupt right now. I
Mhm.
doubt that that'll happen, but I mean, I just don't understand why, that regardless of what people say, I think I absolutely 110% believe there can be peace across the board. We
Mhm.
don't have to be this way.
No.
We don't, you don't have to, we don't have to constantly show this, level of corruption. It's, we don't have to be this way,
Do you
you
feel like
know?
these are growing pains though that are going to lead to that? Like we're going through right now is because as I see a lot of people kind of. I don't want to use the word woke because that word has been abused, but people are starting to really see the man behind the curtain instead of the great and powerful Oz. We're starting to see a lot of this stuff for what it is, and do you feel like it's helping us? That's the growing pains of us eventually getting to a point where we do communicate better and we do have a much more open and honest and respectful society.
Um,
Or am I being naive?
yeah. Well, I don't want to say you're naive at all because I think that's for people like us, I think that is, you know, our ultimate hope in society is that we come to some sort of agreement that it's okay to agree to disagree,
Mhm.
but um I think it will take a very, very, very long time to get there. Just because with like I said, with good, there's evil. You know, there's a lot of people that don't want the best for
Mhm.
humanity. So I don't know if we'll ever get to that point, but I'm hoping that the larger part of the masses will,
Yes.
and we will we'll outweigh it more than, the negative.
We'll keep
So
the scumbags in check eventually.
right. Like, I really do think we're on the brink of something. And you don't see it across other platforms. You really don't until you come to X because I was on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook,
Mhm.
and you don't see this type of positivity and um, hope,
Mhm.
on other platforms. Like, we were talking about some of like, the negative aspects of X. I haven't got to that point yet. And, I'm still a pretty small account, but, most of all the interactions that I've had, have been pretty positive and positive feedback, so I've noticed that we are on the brink of something, and I think we just need to learn how to uh, interact with each other respectfully and honestly and earnestly, and
Yeah.
also a little bit more humbly, a little bit
Mhm.
have a little bit more humbleness, and wanting to understand, you know, each other and figure out why we are the way we are.
Well, Blaze, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. I mean, it's.
You're right. I know. It is very, very hard.
I do think Twitter X is a lot different than how Twitter used to be. I mean, not just I mean, I'm sure it's because the things that Elon and his crew have done, but the and I think it's coming closer to where Twitter originally was kind of supposed to be originally, or actually originally it was just, hey, Panera was delicious today. Send, that was pretty much what it was at that point. But
Right.
like there were times where Twitter was like a cesspool of negativity. You post, any any kind of interaction, it would have to be negative. And you'd say, hey, I like apples, and you got 10 million people saying, why do you hate bananas? And
Right.
where but
Right.
it seems to be like that. And it took me a long time to realize that. And now with X, it's a lot more so. You can kind of cultivate your own you can
Cluster.
cultivate how you interact with it and who interacts with
Yeah.
you a lot
Like,
better.
yeah, like I think the algorithm, which there's been so much talk about it, I think it kind of picks up, where to put you and,
Mhm.
what areas to put you in based off of the content you create, which I think
Yep.
is pretty cool because I mean, that's that's I think is a pretty neat thing.
Mhm.
I don't know much about the algorithm or anything like that, but I think it is neat that based on the content you create, it puts you right in the place that you need to be. And it
Yeah.
has, like, it really
Mhm.
has. Like, it's put me right in the path of some amazing individuals. So I gotta say, I do like it in that nature. Now, I don't like it for, other areas of, you know, what's going on, but so far I've really enjoyed it.
I think the Twitter files with Matt Taibbi and Schellenberger revealed what why Twitter felt different before then, like how they were actively censoring certain people, certain tweets, and how it seems to be
Right.
much more of I don't want to say Wild West, but much more of an even just like keel where before the people that got attention were people that posted certain things, and you got that reinforcement, that behavior, that positive reinforcement, or really negative reinforcement. But you post something, you get all these reactions. But if you post something that goes against certain thoughts, you get punished for it. Where now
Right.
it's instead, if you post a thought, you're going to attract people that might think similar to you or may have a difference,
Right.
but you're
Right. And
gonna
I
kind
think
of
that's
find your
great.
people. You're gonna find your
Right.
tribe. Yeah.
Right. And I
And I
think
think
it's great. I like that. I do like that you know, about this platform. Like it puts you right where you
Mhm.
need to be. And I mean, I kind of like a scope of things. So sometimes
Mhm.
it's a little chaotic in my for you because
Yeah.
I try to keep up with some politics, but for the most part, I'm pretty I try to stay positive and I try to, share
Mhm.
my experiences with, the lessons that I learned along with it. So I get I definitely get a mix of things going on in there. One thing I don't get stuck in though is Dogecoin.
Yeah.
Thankfully. I mean, it's okay, but I don't understand it. I don't want to understand it. It's too complicated. I'm okay. That's one thing I don't see a lot of in my feed. Thank God.
Well, that's glad because it's now time to talk about one of our sponsors, Dogecoin. And I'm just, I'm just kidding. No, but I'm with you there too. I appreciate the concepts, and I appreciate how passionate some of my good friends are with that.
Yeah,
But I'm with you. I'm in your club. I'm like, knock yourself out.
there's
Just
too
don't
much.
ask me to get
Too
involved.
much.
Yeah, I'm
Too
good. I'm
much.
good. Yeah, yeah, maybe I'll make a bunch of money. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll lose the house. I don't know. But it's I'm not gonna I'll let you guys be the canaries in the coal mine for that
Yeah.
mess. But
Yeah.
how do you feel? You've touched on it a lot today, but how do you feel you have evolved as a person to the person you are today? And what were some of the things that really helped you evolve to the person you are today? Like those key moments and key realizations.
the there are several areas and parts of my life that made me realize who I am. One of them was when my father passed away. I know we have discussed this in space, but that was a very, very big, a huge change happened within me when he passed away. Um, I shared with you guys that he was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and there was a lot of, you know, there was a lot of negative feelings that I had towards him in that area of our lives. He was always very in and out, um, quite frequently, but at the same time, he was a lovely person. Like, he was
Mhm.
so funny, he was so caring. em- his he was very empathetic. He was one of the greatest people, you could be around. If you
Mhm.
wanted, someone to make you laugh, he was the one to go to, you know, but I did not judge him fairly in that aspect.
Mhm.
And I held that until the day he died. And I
Oh,
really wish I wouldn't have, because it affected our relationship in a lot of areas, and it kept it from blossoming into what it could have been. And that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned in life is, that there are so many that struggle with that type of thing on a daily basis. And, you know, even though they may struggle with it, it doesn't define that person for who they are. And it shouldn't keep you from maintaining a relationship with that person, unless
yeah.
there are certain boundaries that you have to keep, whenever, you know, whenever you're in that type of situation, you have to have certain boundaries.
Yeah.
But these were boundaries I did not have to have. You know, these were boundaries that I should have taken down the moment he decided to stop and the moment he started to try and build his relationship with me. And we did. We had a really good relationship for a really long time, and but I always had held some level of anger and
Mhm.
resentment against him, because I felt like, you know, he should have changed for me when it wasn't even about me.
Yeah.
And that's where I got it very, 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 very wrong. And so, you know, it opened my eyes to a lot of things. You just, the biggest things to remember is to be compassionate, be kind, be understanding.
Mhm.
Go out of your way to try and understand somebody. You don't know what they're going through. You don't
Yeah.
know how their mind is, how their mind really works either. And so I think that was one of the biggest, because I mean, my dad was a quirk. He was different,
Mhm.
so I don't really know how his thought process worked, you know, but I didn't try to understand it. And that's one of the biggest regrets that you will n- that you'll that I will live with for the rest of my life. And he always would remind me how proud he was of me, and how much he loved me. He never failed to let me, to inspire me. And that's one of my biggest regrets, and that's one of the things that absolutely caused a shift in who I was as a person, and forgiveness can go a long way. And the ultimate thing is, forgiveness is really for your own benefit,
Yeah.
it really is. And I definitely should have given him a little bit. I should have showed a little bit more compassion towards him. And I'm still dealing with it, because I can't hardly talk about it without even, you know,
Yeah.
getting upset. But I have to talk about it because I know it's something that absolutely changed my frame of mind, because, it taught me how to um, treat other people with love and understanding. And that's my goal in life, is to, you know, love everyone regardless of their downfalls. We're all flawed,
Yeah.
individuals. And, you know, we're just here doing the same thing as everyone else, trying to make it through and, get out alive
You're
ish,
right.
you know?
Well, nobody gets out of here alive, but
Yeah.
do you forgive yourself though too? Because I mean, some of that's you probably couldn't help to feel how you felt.
No, I haven't, not yet. That's kind of what I'm working on right now,
Mhm.
is forgiving myself for that, because it was, I mean, when it comes to your parents,
Yeah.
there's you feel things at a completely different level than anybody else that you interact with every day. So, you know, I think a lot of things, my mind tends to go off in 20 directions, and I constantly think, what was the last thing he thought about? Did he know that I love him? And so, no, I have not. I haven't forgiven myself for that.
Well, that'll
And I
take
hope
time.
he knows, sometimes I feel like I feel him, and I hope he knows
Mhm.
that
I think
I
he
love
knows.
him.
I think
I
he'd
think he
forgive you.
does,
Mhm.
because I had the weirdest experience with a medium one time. I don't know if you believe in mediums, but it was a
Little
medium
bit.
that also knew my dad. And he had said something to me along with a ton of other things. He had said something to me, and then at the end of the conversation, he said, "Your dad also wanted me to tell you. Settle down, Blaze." And I was like, "What?" And he said it in the exact tone and in the exact, like, the exact way my dad used to say it to me all the time. "You better settle down." And I mean, it was it made me it just, I knew right then that he was with me.
Mhm.
And so, I definitely have not forgiven myself. I'm working on that. It's one of those, it's a deep, deep rooted trauma that I have provided, yours truly, for myself, and
Mhm.
so, no, I have not got to that point yet, but I'm working on it,
That's
because I
good.
know it will only it'll benefit me if I, you know, can somehow forgive myself for, you know, having that type of approach to him, because it was wrong in every way possible. It was wrong.
All right, we're going to take a quick break from solving all of the world's problems to tell you about a good friend of mine and a service she's offering. Are you tired of feeling like your dream financial future is out of reach? Are you struggling with overwhelming debt, trying to pay off your home early, or simply wanting to give more? Well, my good friend Vanessa Rudder Jackson is here to help. An educator and military veteran, Vanessa is here to guide you through the confusion and make your dream financial future a reality. With her certified financial coaching services, she'll help you create a personalized plan that sets you up to win with money. As an educator and a mother of two, Vanessa understands the challenges of scraping by and stretching paychecks. She's been there, and she knows how to navigate the financial landscape to help you thrive. Don't let financial stress hold you back any longer. Take the first step towards financial freedom today with Rudder Jackson Financial Coaching. Reach out to Vanessa today for a free 45-minute consultation at varudder34@gmail.com or go to tinyurl.com/RJ Money Coach. That's varudder34@gmail.com or tinyurl.com/RJ Money Coach. Remember, it's never too late to take control of your finances and achieve your dreams. Start your journey to financial freedom with Rudder Jackson Financial Coaching today. All right, now let's get back to solving the world's problems with the most charming host on the interwebs. Well, let me switch gears for you. How important is the goofiness of Mindrunner, Norwood, and the gang, and how good and the benefit of levity in lifting spirits? Is that?
I mean, you guys are so funny and you guys are so smart. Like the way you articulate, like I'm still learning how to articulate myself, and and I'm one of the, like I was telling someone this the other day, like my humor, when someone starts, in with their humor or they're trying to be funny, I get really awkward because I don't know how to take
Jordan,
humor
that
sometimes,
is, and then yeah.
It makes me really awkward. And so some jokes, that people do, I think are hilarious, but a lot of times I get really awkward with humor and I don't know why. Um it's kind of always how I've been because
Mm-hmm,
I'm not witty. Like I'm definitely not a witty person at all. Like
mm-hmm,
someone can come, off with something just like you and Norwood, and I
mm-hmm.
cannot. Like I have to sit and I have to gather myself and really think about what I'm going to say back to somebody, you know, in order to come back with a witty comment. I just can't, So I definitely hold you guys up here,
Oh.
because you guys are the greatest. You really have. You guys have always lifted my spirits. You keep it light. You're like the light in the darkness of my abyss.
Ooh. I love that. Hey, who's saying she's not witty? That was good. That was really good.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we've been doing with this space for Amber. It just fell in our lap, but it was like it truly was kind of like lightning in a bottle. Where, yeah, my first interaction was with Norwood. I just hopped on the space. We were talking about food, and I mentioned how I have a trust issue with burritos because I can't see the thing. And then we went into we went into this whole psychological thing, and we're keeping it all deadpan, and everybody else is like, "What? We're talking
What?
like, what are we doing?" And then this stuff we did last night. I hope you go back and
I
listen
will.
to it because we did. We had an in memoriam for the hot dogs that were killed, and then now
So sad, so tragic.
yeah, in the celebrity, there's now celebrities are joining Amber in this. Wieners and Nice Guardians. You can adopt a wiener. The acronym is WANG,
I
and you
want
can
to adopt a Wang.
yes, you can adopt a Wang. You can just they're celebrity spokespeople, and I'll put
Nice.
I'll put a link in the description to the to Fran Drescher and her group that are now rallying behind
I'm down with
the.
that. I'm
You
totally
got to
down
be
with that.
down with the Wangs. That's
You
good
guys have
stuff.
been great. Like you guys have just kind of brought a totally different genre of character that I'm not used to. And
Mhm.
so it's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, we
So
keep
it
it
is.
very PG and clean.
Yeah. Well, m- might be a little bit on, that might be a little bit of a white lie, but but I mean, you guys have been great. I really like, you've always kept me encouraged and inspired. Norwood, dude is so freaking smart.
Yeah.
and very, very quick wit,
Hmm.
and I respect that. 100% respect
Hmm.
someone that has quick wit. So I've definitely enjoyed your guys' company.
And then
Most definitely.
that kiddo Ben Chaos Danger, you know.
Ben and Amber are the reason why I even had enough courage to do my own spaces. Like,
That's
they
awesome.
absolutely contributed so much to that, and I am so grateful for their friendship. And Ben, he co-hosts with me a lot, and he Ben is just so kind,
Mhm.
like so kind, and you don't find that level of kindness in too many places, especially on a platform. He just goes above and beyond to try to understand people and to make them feel safe. And I really do. I love Ben. He's awesome. And I love Amber. She's very knowledgeable.
Mhm.
She knows her stuff. She's great. And as a woman, I look up to her in different areas, and I respect her, opinion and advice. So yeah, they have contributed a lot to my life in a very short amount of time. And that's what it's about. If you can make an impact in that, in a short
Yes.
amount of time, then you have to be a pretty incredible person, so
Do you think Ben is lying about his age? I think he's in his late 30s, early 40s. I don't think he's in his I don't think he's the kid he's pretending to be.
no, I
Or is he
think
an
he
old soul?
he looks pretty young. In my
Yeah.
opinion, I think he looks pretty young.
No, he
Um,
is. He's an old soul. I mean, no, his that's
yes.
I think he's catfishing us
His
with this.
soul is what makes him look older,
Yeah.
or
No, he
it makes
doesn't
him
look old. Yeah.
sound
He's
older. He does have an old soul, and
yeah.
I appreciate that. That's another quality that you don't find in a lot of uh
Young.
men his age,
Yeah.
you don't find a lot of that, so I do appreciate them. They're awesome. They're
And
great.
Amber's had a lot of life experience. She brings a
Right.
lot to the table and
She does. Like,
mhm.
she is incredibly educated, and I value her opinion a lot. Um I value her opinion and her advice
Mhm.
quite a bit, Um and I love her spaces, and she's funny. She's, very outspoken, outgoing, and it kind of brought me out of my shell. Like, she was the first space I ever I just happened to stumble upon her space, and
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh, what's this about?" And so
Yeah.
I got in there,
Yep.
and I'm telling you, I was like, "What is going on here?" And I really enjoyed it. And I was like, and that's kind of just where it started, So I just really try and show her as much support as I can. And I
And now
really,
you've started your own spaces,
I
and
have.
we formed the what are is it officially the Calmist Society because we added a couple people to it?
I think it is the Calm Society or the Calmest Society.
Yeah,
That's what, yeah, most like what we have. There's me, Ben, and then there's
I just got why your space was called Calm Yourself, or you need to chill. That's what your dad used to say, right?
Settle Down.
Settle down, settle down. Yes,
Yeah,
settle
he was
down.
super chill. Super chill. Very chill. But I mean, like, we really do. We have a good thing going, and I'm so excited to see where this journey is going to take us. I think we're here at the right time
Mhm.
in history, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Well, you're doing fantastic, and just keep being you, and your personality is a great fit for the spaces that you provide. I wish I could be in everybody's spaces all the time, but I've got my feet in so many different buckets. But
Yeah,
it
it's
definitely
totally understandable.
definitely check out Blaze's late. You got follow her on Twitter if you haven't already. Make sure you check out her spaces. It's the Chill Zone. It's a very what I love about it too is everybody's accepted, everybody's relaxed. There's
And
no trolls.
yeah,
It's all just, listening to
right.
everybody. It's a great place to kind of, like you said,
Wind
unwind,
down.
wind down,
Just
and
wind
chill.
down with me. That's what I'm doing. I'm winding down from a chaotic day. Come wind down with me, you know?
Exactly. Well, Blaze,
Oh,
thank you
yeah.
so much for hanging with me on this awesome episode, and I look forward to chatting with you a million times over. I
Yes,
think you're right
please.
about Twitter X, and I'm looking forward to hanging with you again. Any final words of wisdom or anything or words of encouragement for everybody listening to this?
Um, be kind to one another and love one another unconditionally. You don't know what other people are going through, so keep an open mind and try to understand each other and love yourself. Definitely love yourself.
Awesome. And on that note, this has been Mind Runner, also known as AA Ron. And on behalf of Blaze, thank you for tuning in. And make sure you hit that like. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Because if you want those feel good vibes, hit the subscribe. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Catch new episodes of Mental Health Mondays every Monday morning at 7 a.m. Start your week off with a smile and some inspiration.